Okay, how bad are we being played when it comes to our money? Well, it might be worse than you thought. Senator Jeff Sessions is going to blow the lid off on this phony stuff that's being done on Capitol Hill to hide the real story, and the senator is here. Nice to see you, Senator.
Thank you, Greta.
Okay, so you're essentially blowing the lid off this sort of phony money business. Explain what your bill is.
Well, we've been talking about gimmicks for a long time in the Senate, and there's been a list of them been used for decades. And it's time to end that. We're the greatest deficits we've ever had, the greatest debt we've ever had. It's time to end the gimmicks. One of the things is we don't pass the budget like the statute requires. So it would say you can't appropriate money until a budget has first been passed. That's one of the first things.
So what do we do? So it gets passed as an emergency, right? When it's not an emergency.
Well, one of the things it's done is if you call something an emergency, it doesn't have to be under the budget. It can be on top of the budget because it's an emergency. But for example, we spent $200+ million on the census in 2008, which is required since 1789 to be done every 10 years. It can't be emergency by any fair definition of emergency. It's mandated a decade in advance. And so that was one of the things that we want to tighten up and make it harder to do.
How do people do this with a straight face? I mean, because that's just one of the things they do. You don't do your job setting the budget as required by law, so you call it an emergency, and it's not an emergency because we've been doing it for a couple hundred years. I mean, it's silly.
It is, that's done too often, and it's been a lot of money. One of the things we do, in a family, for example, if your air conditioner goes out and you have to take your money from your saving account and it costs $1,000, you think, to fix it, and it turns out it only cost $800, you've got $200 extra still left in your saving account. But not in Washington. In Washington, that extra $200 is considered to be found money and can be spent on virtually anything else, and it doesn't score as an additional expenditure.
So those are sort of phony rescissions, essentially.
That's correct.
All right, another one of my favorite ones is the freeze on government fake federal pay freeze.
That's correct. It has been announced that we have a pay freeze, but 70% of the workers have received pay raises in the last 2 years. So it's they get their step increases and other increases. It's not a pay freeze. They announce a pay freeze. It's not so. We need to quit misrepresenting to the American people what's happening. If there are going to be some increases, we should say so. We should say clearly what our budget does, how much it spends, how much debt it creates, and we've not been doing that.
All right, so your Honest Budget Act is to do away with all this stuff. It's basically scamming the American people, because everybody in Washington on Capitol Hill knows it's going on. Everybody knows the American people they've got their own lives to worry about without the complexities, but we're being scammed, aren't we?
I really think we are. We think that in 5 years, these gimmicks that I've referred to, the 9 I've listed, will have cost the American taxpayers $350 billion. That is a great deal of money.
But it's just the idea that you try to, when you balance your books, I mean, you expect sort of a sense of honesty, but when you're sort of slippery and you're moving the things around, you're a little tricky and you're renaming things, and you don't do your job, so you call it something else. I mean, I don't think most Americans they realize it's going on, and I think they probably think it's a pretty ugly situation.
I think that's part of the low esteem that Congress is being held in, because they understand those kind of things happen, even when sometimes it benefits their state by a clever congressman or senator that brings home something for the state. I think more and more people are being less appreciative of that and more offended by it, and I think that's healthy. We have an opportunity to make some big changes, and we can do better.
Well, I hope that the Honest Budget Act gets passed, because all it does is say, let's play straight with all our numbers and not be so slick.
I think we have a real chance at bipartisan support. Olympia Snowe from Maine is my co-sponsor, and she's worked hard on it, and we intend to work hard for this bill.
Senator, thank you, sir. Good luck.
Thank you.